Okay, let's jump straight into this explainer of Sarah Jessica Zucca's seriously profound book, The Invisible Prison, The Cell We Become. Today, we're unpacking a pretty uncomfortable truth about modern life. We're going to look at how we unconsciously build our very own invisible cages out of our daily routines, just brick by brick without even realizing it. We usually think of constraints as these big external forces, right? Like bosses, obligations, societal rules. But this whole journey is going to completely flip that assumption on its head.
The absolute core thesis we'll be examining today is honestly a bit chilling. It's the idea that the most effective prisons out there don't actually stop you from walking or working or laughing. Instead, they just quietly blend right into your normality. I mean, think about it. When a cage manages to blend seamlessly with your everyday routine, it stops looking like a prison. It just becomes the landscape, and suddenly everything seems inevitable, and you completely stop looking for an exit. You don't rebel against the bars because, well, you don't even recognize them as bars anymore. To you, they're just the morning commute, the endless push notifications, the scrolling, the assumed expectations of just a regular Tuesday.
So we really have to ask ourselves, what if the walls holding us back aren't made of iron, but of our own unseen daily micro-habits? What if the strongest cells are built from the things we just stop noticing? We spend so much time and energy looking for these big, dramatic villains in our lives, trying to figure out what massive external force is draining our focus. But the reality is actually much quieter than that. The prison is constructed through these tiny, imperceptible agreements we make with ourselves every single hour, basically choosing distraction over presence and constant motion over stillness.
Which brings us to Act 1, the bars. This is all about exactly how we go about building that invisible cage. To understand how this cage gets built, we have to look at our unconscious habits. And honestly, think about how incredibly fast this happens. We literally lay the bricks of our cell within the first 5 minutes of waking up. The alarm hasn't even gone off yet, your eyelids open early, and boom, your hand reflexively reaches out in the dark for your phone. That harsh, artificial light hits your eyes before you even take a full breath, and a sudden spike of cortisol just floods your system. You're instantly consuming notifications, absorbing the stress and demands of 1,000 strangers. That morning's pristine silence, that one tiny moment of pure mental reset, it lasts the length of a blink before it's just filled. You surrender the absolute quietest part of your day to the noise of the world without a second thought. And what's wild is how we justify this constant, low-level anxiety to ourselves. We constantly lie to ourselves by calling our endless scrolling through 42 different product variants savvy shopping. I mean, you just wanted a simple pair of socks, right? Or maybe a basic coffee maker. But suddenly you're an hour deep into reading conflicting reviews, absolutely terrified of making the wrong choice. The harsh truth is that isn't research. It is a manufactured trap of infinite choice paralysis. The system doesn't actually want you to make a decision quickly, it wants you spending time not making one, because that paralysis, that endless browsing, is exactly the space where your attention gets packaged and resold to advertisers. And this extends way beyond shopping too. We reframe our automatic yes to every single request as generosity. A coworker asks for a favor, a calendar invite pops up, a friend texts you to go to an event you literally have zero energy for, and you hit accept before your brain has even fully processed the question. We call it being helpful. But actually, it's just a barrier of continuous motion, and it becomes a cage. It's automatic consent, designed specifically to avoid the terrifying emptiness of standing still. We say yes simply because slowing down feels like a concrete risk. Like if we stop moving, we might actually have to sit quietly with our own thoughts. And for a lot of us, that's a terrifying prospect.
Okay, let's move on to Act 2, the guards, the wardens of our attention.
So once the bars are built through those daily micro-habits, we deploy internal and external guards to enforce our own imprisonment. And we do this primarily through our total obsession with image performance. As the quote says, "The judge in the mirror anticipates the entrance and completes its assessment before others have had time to form theirs." Think about the last time you prepared for a meeting, a date, or even just crafted a response on social media. We completely exhaust ourselves performing this fictional identity, relentlessly policed by an inner judge that evaluates our every move. You tear yourself apart worrying about how you're being perceived, fully assessing and convicting yourself before you've even stepped foot in the room. You're acting as your own toughest warden just to make sure you meet society's completely unreachable expectations. To escape the crushing pressure of that internal judge, we turn to our screens, what the author brilliantly calls the digital opiate. Let's really unpack this one because it's a mechanism perfectly engineered to keep us docile. First off, the endless scrolling.
It's designed specifically so there's no stopping cue. We do this to chase fleeting dopamine. Every notification, every like, is a tiny biological hit that numbs any underlying boredom or anxiety. But none of this is an accident. It is literally the most sophisticated system ever created for harvesting human attention. Your focus is the currency of the modern world. But the true tragedy here, that final point, the cost, is erasing real presence. By constantly checking out of the uncomfortable moments in life to look at our phones, we are systematically checking out of our own lives. We're physically in the room, sure, but mentally, we are miles away.
Which brings us to Act 3, the rift. Impact with reality. Now I want you to slow down with me for a second here. Just embrace the silence, because this is where we experience the rift. And the rift is not some tool or a life hack or a dramatic movie-style escape. It's simply a tiny fracture in the continuity of motion, an uncomfortable, empty space requiring you to cross into unknown territory without your usual map. It's that sudden, quiet Tuesday afternoon moment where a Zoom meeting abruptly ends, the screen goes black. The hum of the refrigerator is the only sound in the room, your coffee is cold, and you suddenly realize you've been standing in the exact same place, living the exact same loop for way longer than you were willing to admit. In that empty space, the concrete of your invisible cage suddenly becomes visible. And this brings us to the absolute core message of this entire philosophical journey. When you finally see the cage, the immediate reaction is panic. But that panic gives way to an incredibly empowering realization. There is no enemy to fight. The lock to your prison has always been on the inside. That fact is terrifying, sure, because it means you can no longer blame the algorithm or society or your schedule, but it is profoundly empowering because it means you don't need anyone's permission to leave. You are the architect of the routines that trapped you, and that means you are absolutely the only one who possesses the power to open the door. So as we wrap up this explainer, we've traced the whole journey, right? From the bars we build in the first 5 minutes of our day, past the digital guards that numb our anxieties, and right to the edge of the rift. The illusion is shattered. So the question is no longer whether the cage exists, but what you choose to do about it. Ask yourself, the next time emptiness appears in your day, that quiet, uncomfortable silence, will you let the guards numb it with another endless scroll, or will you bravely step into the rift, sit with the discomfort, and finally claim the key? The choice, as always, is yours.